In this section, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and talk about the asset publisher. So we've just talked about how we can use things like page templates and site templates to really speed up the process of getting our sites up and running, getting our pages out there. One of the other awesome tools that we have in Liferay is the asset publisher. It's a widget that we can use that allows us to essentially query the database and determine what content we want to have on display. To simplify it, I like to think of it as a widget that allows you to determine what content you want to display and how you want to display it. Now, the cool thing about the asset publisher is it allows us to determine how we want to actually go about getting our content. So right out the gate, if you go to configure an asset publisher, you have the ability to choose the manual option or the dynamic option. Now, the manual option allows you to essentially choose specifically what content you want. So let's say you have a number of press releases that you specifically want to be on display or something along those lines. Manual allows you to do that. Now, the dynamic option allows you to set up what I like to call a self-publishing page. The dynamic option gives you the ability to filter through your content based on certain metadata or criteria, and then display it in a certain way and allow it to be sort of a self-updating feed on the page. Now, of course, this could be single articles that update every now and again as your content team or marketing team publishes new content. It could be a list of anywhere from 5, 10, 20, 100, whatever it is you want to configure. You have the ability to set it up. So when the process is complete, we can go from start to finish with content creation to display on a page without having to do any manual work in between, okay? So if we were to go back to think about our templates, if we were to have templates that had asset publishers set up on them, and those asset publishers were configured appropriately, we could essentially spin up a site and then start creating content and have it automatically start showing up on the page. Okay. So this is a really cool option, definitely something to look into if you've not spent any time looking at the asset publisher. Now let me dig into the configuration a little bit more here. I just mentioned that the asset publisher sort of breaks down into the what content to display and the how to display it. So what does that actually look like? In the content configuration, we have the asset selection section, and this will be the what to display, okay? Here is where you can choose the source, so which asset or assets, you can choose different assets if you'd like, do you want to have on display? And then you can further configure down. If I want to display web content, but specifically the, let's say, press release structure, or in our case with the Livingston Hotels and Resorts, let's say the news structure, or the featured hotel structure, or something along those lines, I can select that in the source section and then go down to the filter section, which allows us to filter content based on tags or categories, okay? And this is why it's important to consider those tags and categories sort of right out the gate. How do I want to keep things organized? And then we can continue to filter down based off of that organization as well. Now there is a section called the custom user attributes. I'll just throw this out there right now. That's pretty much a dud. In previous versions, it allowed us to do some semblance of audience targeting, but that's no longer the preferred method for doing audience targeting. So just assume that that's not gonna work in this version. If any of you watching these videos are still on, I think Liferay 6, perhaps 6.1, it may work for you. All right. Then after that, you have ordering and grouping, which allows you to determine how you want to sort of order the assets that you have selected. And then you have the display settings. And the display settings are where you determine the how you want to display it. And that's going to dig into things like if you want to use a special template, we'll talk about those soon, how many you want to have on display, is there going to be pagination, et cetera, et cetera. All right, so to recap, the asset publisher is a tool that helps us to determine what content we want to display on a page, how we want to display it. It does this with manual or dynamic options. Manual lets you choose exactly what you want to display, and dynamic allows you to set up what I called that self-publishing page, where you can add filters and the like to determine exactly what you want to show up on a page so that when content is created, you don't have to go through the manual effort of placing it on the page yourself. Okay, so there are a number of options that we have to work with here. What we're going to do next is we're going to start the setup for an asset publisher that we can use for Livingston Life so that we can get our blogs regularly published and displayed in a specific manner on our site pages. All right, so let's do it.